Kevin Gillespie has a deep love of all things Southern, especially the food he grew up with. Some of his earliest memories are of standing next to the stove in his granny's kitchen, watching her cook. When he was 7, Gillespie declared his desire to become a chef. And by the time he competed on season 6 of Bravo's Top Chef, he was well on his way to becoming the award-winning chef he is today.
Gillespie is now chef and owner of 2 of Georgia's hottest restaurants, Gunshow and Revival. And he's recently released his second cookbook, Pure Pork Awesomeness. The James Beard Awards named him a semi-finalist just this week in the Best Chef Southeast category for the 3rd time. We are thrilled to welcome Kevin Gillespie to the dish. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
On the nomination.
I appreciate it.
I love that you still giggle when he reads the name of your own cookbook.
Well, it's like when the name came out, I didn't have a name, and I just went on this long rant about the awesomeness of pork, and people were like, well, clearly that's the name of the book. Yeah, I've created the word awesomeness, and now it's actually written down somewhere.
Well, it makes sense that you would bring us a huge, was this a pork shoulder?
Yes, this is a pork shoulder that is glazed in Coca-Cola. My mom loves Coca-Cola Classic.
Glazed? Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to do it for her. So yeah, absolutely.
And what else do we have on the dish?
So on the left here, we have some cabbage dumplings, and they're stuffed with sausage, with farm sausage. This is something I grew up with. We also have some glazed root vegetables, and then in front over here are tomato braised greens with creamy grits.
And tell us about this really delicious beverage this morning.
Well, that's really what we're here for. We call this peach party liquor, which basically means that we've made peach tea and then put a bunch of moonshine in it.
Oh, wow.
You guys are familiar with moonshine, right?
It goes down really smooth.
Well, that's the problem, is that it has a tendency to go down too smooth. Actually, the last time I drank a bunch of this, I got shot with a dart gun.
All right, let's go way back. We mentioned that you declared your intention to be a chef when you were 7 years old.
7
Seems
years
a bit
old.
early.
It is early. And what's crazy is that when I told people I want to be a chef, like no one was saying chef when I was 7 years old. I don't even know where I got that from. But yeah, I proclaimed it to my parents that that's what I was going to do. I think I watched maybe too much PBS cooking shows at the time. But they completely supported it. In fact, they actually took me to the CIA on vacation that year so I could see what being a chef looked like.
Wow. But your background is so interesting. I mean, we had people with lots of backgrounds. You're our first, I think, could have been nuclear engineer. I mean, you were accepted to MIT.
Yep.
You could have had a full ride.
Yep.
That must have been incredibly difficult to say, no, but I want to do this.
Well, it was challenging. You know, my father's an engineer, and I think my family expected me to follow that path.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of pressure to go to school, and especially a school that's that regal. But I quickly realized 2 facts about MIT, which was that if I went there, I would be the stupidest person at MIT and the coolest person at MIT. And I just wasn't really prepared for that eventuality, so cooking seemed to make a little bit more sense to me at the time.
But you've also said you carried a little bit of guilt from making that decision.
I did. You know, there was a lot of pressure, and a lot of it was self-induced, I think, honestly. This feeling that it was my responsibility to sort of break the cycle. No one in my family had ever actually gone to college, much less graduated at that point.
Wow.
And so I think everyone looked to me to make it happen. And a lot of people, you know, actually said to me that my intellect was going to waste and not going to university. And so I've always approached my career with one where I was going to let my brain sort of help me get to where I wanted to go. And so writing books was a natural outlet, and then building restaurants that kind of make you think about things.
Your restaurants are so interesting. Like, when I obviously I have not been to Gunshow, but when I read about it, it sounds like dim sum, but
Sort
with
of.
Full dishes.
Kinda.
Like, how did you come up with that concept?
Well, the idea for Gunshow was one where I felt like there was entirely too much pomp and circumstance in our industry. I didn't like the direction that the food world was going in, and I wanted a restaurant where cooks could actually connect with the guests themselves. You know, rather than having that intermediary of the server, why not have the person who actually made the dish come tell you about it themselves?
Yeah.
And it becomes a very personal experience. And so the dim sum model just happened, frankly, because we couldn't figure out any other way for people to keep leaving the kitchen all throughout the night and actually be able to serve anybody. And now it's 8 different chefs. There's a guy named Joey Ward who's been with me for a decade who runs Gunshow for me, and he and his team assemble about 16 different dishes a night. And when you come in, you'll see all 16. And the person who brings them to you is the person who created it. It's their idea. Yeah. They cooked it, they prepped it, and then they serve it to you as well.
Well, I will say this dish lives up to the pork awesomeness that you had promised. As I get your signature on this dish, I want to ask you if you could have this meal with any person, past or present, who would that person be?
Does the person have to be a real person?
No.
Well, no one's asked that. Okay, no.
Well, I think in that case, my answer has to be Homer Simpson.
Oh.
I mean, who else would enjoy a giant table full of food? And he seems like a pretty fun guy to me.
I think he'd enjoy the cocktail as well.
And pure awesomeness,
I think he
yeah.
would,
Yep.
absolutely.
Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
For more on Kevin and the dish, please head to our website at cbsthismorning.com.